hopefully all of this is working. Just making sure everything's set up here. Don't know if the microphone can pick anything up here, but got to make sure the iPad's connected. So this will be the first, I guess, episode, if you want to call it, that I'm just streaming my daily Christmas art. So basically, what I planned on doing for 2022 is every day on my Instagram, I'm going to do a piece of art that, for now, it's still kind of evident that Christmas is like right in front of your face, but that's because it's just the beginning of January, so it's still like fresh on my mind. But what I'm looking to do is, like, as the year goes on, I'll probably hide a little bit of Christmas in the artwork somewhere, so you might have to find it. But for now, it's going to be pretty evident what it is. I guess that's the correct way to say it. But what I'm going to do today, what I plan on doing then every Wednesday, doing a live stream and actually just streaming the drawing process. I use the iPad. I use the app Procreate to draw. Use the iPencil, Apple Pencil, and today I'm going to just do something that's, I guess I could say it was inspired by my grandmother, just because whenever I think Christmas and Christmas Eve, this is what I picture. So I'm going to be drawing something that's inspired by that. So what I like to do is, like, I'll do multiple layers. So the first layer, I just use the sketch. So I just go up into sketching. I like the peppermint one just because it's kind of a nice pencil sketch line. See, as the harder you push, the darker it'll get. But I'm just going to start doing the drawing, and then obviously you'll be able to tell what it is as I go. I had different plans to do today, but this one's going to have to do for now. So what I'm going to do, I probably won't be talking too much as I do it. I usually just do my Christmas sketches like really quick. Usually it takes like 5-10 minutes at the most when I do them. But since this is online and streaming, I might as well take a little bit of time with it. Yeah, I don't like that. So I find myself, I'll mess up a lot. I'll be like erasing stuff like constantly, but that's just how it is. Now I don't know if I'm gonna do both of them, or if I'm gonna just do one and I'll just copy paste it type of a thing. Again, with this just being the sketch layer, there's a much to it. I guess I'm kind of like looking at this. It's probably going to be a little too large, but the good thing with Procreate, you could always select your whole item and just shrink it, do whatever size you want. So I guess technically you could work large and then just shrink it down if it's a little too big. Sometimes it's easier to work larger. Same thing with the screen. You could like pinch it. Obviously, you don't want to go too small. And then what I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing a drawing every day. I'm posting them up on Instagram, but then I'll usually post the process, the art drawing itself. The good thing about Procreate is it actually keeps track of everything you're doing, and then you could export it as a full video. So that's always good. And then over the Christmas break, what I did was a lot of my favorite commercials from when I was younger. Most of the Christmas ones from Northeast PA. They've been on the air basically ever since I was a little kid. A couple of them I haven't seen. I don't see anymore. It's kind of upsetting, but it is what it is, I guess. I'm not really looking at any chats or anything, so if anything's going on there, you'll have to pardon me not paying attention. But okay. So I don't know if you're able to even tell what any of this stuff is, but when we were uh, when we were younger, my grandmother always would wear these. I guess it's just called ribbon candy, but ribbon candy earrings. So that's what I'm trying to draw here. But they always reminded me of Christmas Eve. Might be one of those things though, like where you just think it happened in your head. I always just picture them being like a pretty prominent thing. I'm sure there's so many like easier ways to like draw and do all this kind of stuff on Procreate, but I always just kind of not do it sloppy, but just kind of do it a more traditional route, I guess, kind of like how you would draw on paper, just because I've drawn that way forever. So once I started doing more digital stuff, I guess I'm still doing a digital type of artwork, but I'm doing it like a physical medium type of a way. That's the thing too with that. I don't know if you just saw that it went sideways. If you hold the pencil sideways, actually just like a real pencil, if you kind of like shade sideways, it gives it that wide charcoal look. Okay, so I think I'm gonna shrink this down a little bit here, just because it's a little large. I guess this should probably come back here more. And then again, with this just being the sketch layer, you could build different layers on Procreate. If you look up here, you could just add as many layers as you want, turn layers on and off. So depending on what you want to do, um, with this being the sketch phase, I just kind of make lines all over the place, kind of sloppy about it. But then when you go in and ink it or color it, then you could, fix all that stuff. I don't know what the tops of earrings look like. I'll assume that's what they look like. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be what one of them look like. I'm gonna go with the color. If I remember correctly, the color of hers was the red, white, and green um, ribbon color. So that's what we're gonna go with. But what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch it to another layer. Then I'm gonna go to ink. I like to use the syrup ink. It's just the name of the different brushes. The reason I like that one is you could start with a nice fine tip, and then depending on how you push, it gives it a nice flow. On the left hand side here, these are your opacities, and then obviously your brush size on the top. But with this being the not the sketch layer, this is the layer above it. Anything I do on here might be a little too thick for what I'm trying to do. could just pinch and zoom in. It makes things a little bit easier. Still, I'm going to be doing this a little more cartoony with an outline. Technically, the item doesn't have an outline like this just because obviously it's an earring that's colored, but sometimes I just find it easier to, like I said, I'm basically doing it like I'm drawing. So I guess technically it could be like a coloring book type of a thing. I'm sure there's people out there that use Procreate for a living, probably watching me draw in here and have a heart attack because, again, I still just do things kind of sloppy. I don't like to do. See, there's a thing on Procreate. I'll show you in a second. I like to just make my lines a little more natural like that. But if I were to draw a circle and just leave the pencil on there for a second, it'll actually like make it into a perfect circle, or as close to it. I think if you tap the screen, then it'll make it perfect. But I like to give it that, I guess, hand drawn sloppy look. I guess, if you want to call it that. Kind of just fixated on the earring part up here. Just want to get this part done. Then we could go back down to the actual ribbon. Okay, we'll leave that like that for now. Then we'll come in here and work on building the ribbon. Probably should have brought this part up a little higher here. So I'm going to erase this section. I want to arch it up a little higher so it actually touches this top piece. That's a little better. And then that probably wouldn't look like that because this piece would probably I'm going to go back and I'll erase the parts on here where you're going to have that earring post that goes through all the way. All right, so I think that looks all right. I don't know, something's off a little bit up there, but we're gonna leave it like that for now. No big deal. So with that being the outline, I could go in here and I'm gonna turn off the sketch layer, so I'm basically just left with the outline. Then what I'm gonna do is get my face off the screen there for a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this a reference layer, and then what that'll do is it'll allow me to do other things that won't affect it. So basically, let me show you. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to add another layer, and I'll drop it behind that. And then if I were to, we'll say, just do red. I'm not going to keep it like this, but if I were to just use the red and color it, you could still see the black in front of it. Okay. The other thing it'll let you do, if you wanted to fill things in, like you could actually drag a color down, and as long as you left, let me make sure that's on a reference. Okay, there we go. It wasn't on reference. As long as you drop it in something that's closed in, it'll just fill it in, kind of like a bucket fill back in the day. Bucket fill. I guess that was on paint. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my colors. I know I'm going to go with a little bit of a darker one. So I'm going to do this on the layer. You don't want to do it on the reference layer, your outline layer. You always just kind of want to leave that. So I always do a layer for all of my colors. So this will be my red color. I can't use the fill for the outside there because it's only on the outside of the ribbon that I need it. So I'm going to pencil draw that in. So one thing you could do, you could select it and automatic select it so you don't go out of that section. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to draw it in there, and however it fills in, that'll be fine with me. So the way this ribbon candy worked is it was a red stripe on the outside. So technically, it's still going to be red on part of this. On both sides. So you're going to have red over there and red on this side. I'm not too worried about if I get it on anything else. I could always go in and erase that. But red on both sides. And then you can't forget to go in and fill in all the inside parts as well. But just because this is going to bug me, I'm going to get rid of the overkill there. And we'll go back to the red. I'm going to fill this in just a little bit. Then we got to do the inside. Same thing with this. This will be out there, in there, in there. So just following the pattern. And finally the inside of that piece. So that'll be the red portion of the ribbon candy, red on both sides. Then you actually have white, and then there's another stripe in the center. Again, this is all how I'm remembering it in my head. I would have maybe it's not even, maybe it doesn't even look like this. I'm not sure. But then we have another stripe that runs through the whole thing, but it's going to go right through the center. And it's a green stripe. So technically, I'm just going to bring this through the whole thing. I want it to cover that red, so I gotta kind of just be careful where I put it there. And I think I'm good on all my stripes there. Then I'm going to just fill in the earring part We're going to go with just a grayish silver type color. We'll just fill all that in. Since it's all solid, I should just be able to drop fill everything here. Must have been separated. All right, then what I'm going to do is create another layer. You know what? What I'm going to do first, I'm going to merge these two layers together. So now it's all one layer. Then I'm going to copy the whole thing and paste it, because you got to have two earrings. Now this one I'm going to shrink a little bit. I'm going to move it over here. And then rearrange my layers, put it behind the first one. Then if you notice, all the white, I just kind of left white. So now I could go in and fill it, and then that'll actually cover up, wrong one, that'll actually cover up that one behind it there. I'm just drop filling them all in here. And with the ribbon color and the layer that I'm doing it on being all on that same layer, it'll block that off, so then you don't see it. But now what I'm going to do is create a new layer that's going to go, let's see, it's going to go on top of everything. We're going to go to black. We're going to drop our opacity pretty far down. And we just test out the size of this. It's a little too small, because now we're going to go in and put all of the shadows in. So obviously anything that's on the inside is going to be darker all the way through. So I'm just going to go through and just do one, basically like one little layer of dark through there. Then we're going to go back in and touch it up, because there's going to be other parts that are darker as well. And then same thing with this one. It's going to fill it all in. Now I have everything on the same layer here, so one piece will interfere with the other. If I draw over top of that, it'll cover it. So just keep mind of where you're at. Then what I'm going to do, if I were to go over that layer again, it would darken it up a bit more, but I'm just going to turn up the opacity a little bit more. And I think I want to do another round of darkening here. And then I'm going to go back and do a third one, but I'm not going to pull it all the way through the whole thing. Because there's obviously going to be, even though it's all in a shadow, there will be sections that are highlighted. And I'll show you what I mean here. All right, so I'm going to shrink that a little bit, turn the opacity back up a little bit higher, and then obviously this part up here is going to be a little bit darker than the next part. And anything that kind of is like overlapping is going to be a little bit darker. Now, obviously, this just being done for fun, I'm not going to worry too much about how authentic the shadows are and all that. It just definitely makes it stand out if you do highlights and shadows. So what I'm going to do, drop the opacity back down, because then each ribbon here is going to also have a shadow inside, just because of the way the material would bend. I'll do it on both sides of it. Then this one will be in a shadow even more, because this one's in front of it. And we got to do the top piece here. Do a little shadow around that. then I think if we put a little bit of shading on the hooks, see now, like I said, if I go around and do a second layer, it darkens up the shading. So we're going to do, I mean, technically, I guess if I wanted to, I could have just done one earring, copied it, and then just pasted the whole thing over there. But this way, at least they're a little more, each of them unique then. So it's not a copy and paste of the whole entire thing, just the outline. Then we'll do the same thing over on this one. Like I said, it's not going to be identical just because each one is a little different. So we did that. Then I'm going to come in here and go white, turn that up a little bit more, shrink it down, because if you have a shadow, you want to highlight a little bit of this. Then I'll make this a little bit smaller and I'll refine the highlights just to really make it look a little more 3D. But by keeping the opacity lower, you'll be able to see through your highlights and your shadows, so you could always still see what's going on underneath. So now I'm going to make that smaller, turn the opacity up higher, and these ones are not going to be too big because it's a small item, so it's kind of where the highlight's really going to hit it. And then if I turn that up a lot higher, it would pop a little bit more. So that's it for the highlights on that. I think I'll do a little bit of highlights on these, since in my head I remember them being like a not plastic, but kind of like that polymer clay, but maybe they were hard plastic, I'm not even sure. But if it's that polymer clay, that should still have a little bit of a highlight. So I think I'm going to add just a little bit on the front. Just where it bends, just because if it was an actual 3D object, you would see a little bit of a highlight on that bend. And then I think I'm going to just do a little on the end, on the side there. Then I'm going to really turn it up, shrink it down, and then just a little tiny one. And that just gives it more of a, I don't want to say blended because I didn't blend the shadows at all or the highlights, but I just did it like that. So that is the ribbon earrings. And then you have all your different layers. Like I said, you could turn different layers off. So if you wanted to turn off your um, highlights and shadows, you could just turn them on and off. I don't remember. Oh, I merged them together, the reference layer, but that would turn off the whole layer, so you're just left with the shadows and the highlights. But for the most part, that's all there is to it. That's the set of ribbon earrings that remind me of my grandmother that she would wear. But I am going to sign the bottom, and then I'm going to pack it in for the night. So I've been signing all the pieces and then dating them. I'm going to put this up on my Instagram later. And what is today? Today is the 5th. So let's put 1/2022. And that's the piece there. I'm going to go to iPad only I'll zoom in so you can see it. Really, there's not much to it, really. I mean, it's just kind of basic color, highlight, shadows, and that's about it. But like I said before, this is something new. I'm putting a picture up every day on my Instagram. That's going to be every day, but then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be doing a live one. So if you have any ideas or things you would like to see, always you could send a comment. Let me know if there's something you would like me to attempt to draw, and maybe I'll work that into a piece. Since I'm doing them daily, 364, 5, however many days are this year, it's going to be tough to think of that many things. So any ideas are welcomed. So if you guys watch this, thanks for watching, and I will be back here again next Wednesday at the same time. If something comes up, just check my Instagram or Twitter and click any of the links below if you want to get to my social media. And I will be back next week. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you later.